So yeah, we're going to talk about data storage in particular this morning, and it's great to have the CEO of NetApp here, who probably there are a few people in the world that know as much about data storage as him. So Cesar, I know we've talked a bit about, yesterday we had the, from Google, the person in charge of AI policy, and he talked about how important algorithms are, data, and the like. What's more important, algorithms or data?
Well, first of all, great to be here, Paris, and welcome. And thanks everyone for being in this session. Listen, I always say the following: if you have the wrong data, if data, doesn't have the right quality, whatever you do on the algorithm, you're going to have the wrong outcome. There's no doubt that we're living the age of data. That's the real fourth revolution that we're living in. When you think about AI is based on two things: algorithms and data. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about algorithms. Many of you are spending a lot of time on that. What I will tell you is the future of AI and the present of AI is based on that quality of data that you have. How that data is going to perform, how you store your data, how accessible is your data, security, is it secure or not, how protected it is. And those elements are critical. Goldman Sachs is predicting next year for 2025 a $200 billion investment only on AI. So just think about the importance for the different companies, entrepreneurs, investors, on that AI models, if the data is wrong. So answering your question, quality of data for me is more important than the algorithms, but you depend on the algorithms.
Yeah, and so you may recall, some of you that were here yesterday, I mentioned the story of a student of mine that is learning how to do prompts for ChatGPT, and doing prompts is not easy, and so she wanted to become a prompt engineer, and the Google guy said, well, it's good to spend time on that, but now ChatGPT is actually writing prompts for you as well. But what ChatGPT can't do is make up your data, right?
No, that's right.
That's right. And so, all right, so let's now talk about, I've seen a lot of companies, and I actually teach sometimes data strategies in companies. And sometimes you get to companies that have data that, looks like a dog's breakfast. I mean, it's a disaster. What do you do when you get to a company like that?
Basically, we say there's a lot of work in front of us. Here's a couple of interesting data points. Just today, think about the following. Today, we generate the same amount of data that we generated 20 years ago in the full year. So in other words, 365 more times, of data today than 20 years ago. So what do we do with all of that amount of data? Why? For many years, companies have been saying, hey, I need to have all this information to make the right calls. As the power of the data that you have and the amount of data that you have, if you structure it well, you can have the right outcomes. But today, we're only using 30% of the data that we store. So think about all this data that we have. Only 30% of it, we're using it. The other 70% of it, we don't know what to do with it. So think about the unstructured data and structured data. Yesterday, I was talking to the CEO of a publicly listed company in the US. She's been in the job for the last 18 months, and she was sharing with me her challenges. Says, Cesar, I've been the last 18 months in the company. I joined to transform the organization and the company. We've been in the business for many, many years. I have 25 different databases. Not all of them are connected. I have all these different systems. When I ask for information, I get different answers. It's almost impossible for me to build a model. I need to go and transform all those systems because I've done M&As, I have all systems, into a real intelligent data platform that can really help me build the future. Many of you understand unstructured data and structured data, right? So think about the companies have all this structured data that we've been storing for years, where we make our decisions, are part of our databases, etc. But the real power, and when you think about AI, is around all this unstructured data that is in the internet, is in social media, that can complement your structured data and make your overall data and models way richer. Something simple, very simple. I was reading this morning that Citi has announced a new IT, the CEO announced a new corporate IT person, that's going to run IT and CTO, et cetera, for the group. Well, I was thinking or hoping that all those companies that are serving Citi, from an IT perspective, their own CRM system will have captured that information, bring into their CRM, say, hey, this is the email, go and reach out to this person, we have a new CIO. LinkedIn saw that opportunity years ago. Bring in some of the unstructured data, structuring that data, and then you connect that to your own CRM system, where basically the information that you gather and you have in your own CRM, you connect it to a third party, which in this case is LinkedIn. And there's tools that help you to have a real powerful CRM system that can build models for you.
Interesting. Now, there are probably a lot of entrepreneurs here who are either having startups or thinking to do a startup. Should a startup founder feel intimidated with all this data in the sense that they'll never be able to compete with big companies? And does your company also help startups?
Great question. I will say just the opposite. I think we're seeing the peak of the iceberg right now. Here's what is going on, and let me talk about the 3 hyperscalers. Let me talk about, what are the models that we're seeing and the opportunity that I think some of you have. The 3 hyperscalers, and Microsoft, in this case Azure, Amazon with AWS and Google with Google Cloud, have been building massive, massive infrastructures across the globe with their data centers. Basically, they're trying to provide an infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and they have some type of software as a service as well. The real opportunity is exactly on that last piece, that software as a service, where you can build some of those models for companies, because they will never go and build these different micro verticals or specific niche players, right, or solutions to help customers. Or even more, they will not go and do an end-to-end plan to help customers on their AI journey or Gen AI journey. Here's the challenge for companies. When you go and say, how can I go and build my AI model in a fast, reliable, and cheap way, right? How can I do it in a way that it makes sense economically? The reality is you need to go and work with one of these hyperscalers. So it's going to be very tough if any of the startups come and say, look, I'm going to build a huge data center, right, that is going to be competing with the 3 hyperscalers. That's going to be a challenge. We're seeing some newcomers building a specific, AI data centers with some specifications and technology that will differentiate themselves from the hyperscalers. But those are huge investments as well. There's funds behind it, investors, and NVIDIA has created this NVIDIA Cloud Service Providers, where we help them and we team up with them. But the real important piece will be once you build those models in the hyperscalers, right? So you create the model where you bring the unstructured data and structured data, and you use the infrastructure the hyperscalers has. Then you want to bring that model to your own data center and your own servers for different reasons. One, you're going to go and do your interference in your data center. You're going to bring your own live data, get the model that has learned, and with your data connected so you have the right outcomes and you have built those algorithms. And that's where you have a great opportunity as a startup. You're going to do that for cost reasons. You're going to do that for performance reasons. You're going to do that for security reasons. And that's exactly what we're seeing. The real challenge is how do you get that data center that you have with hyperscaler to talk to each other. And that's why data comes again, having a structured data. And that's one of the things that we do, right? Helping startups to connect that data in the same architecture, regardless if it's in the cloud or on-prem.
Cesar, be honest about this. Have you ever arrived at a company where you've looked at their data and said, no, this is a real problem here? Have you turned back a client before?
Are we recording?
Yes, it's true.
Look, we always say yes because we're always here to help. But the truth of the matter, I've been very honest with CEOs, telling them, hey, what is your expectation? At the end of the day, happiness, I always say, is a matter of 2 things. Expectations and reality.
Happiness, you heard it first here. Expectations and reality.
It's a formula. I'm a little bit of a person that likes to put
But
formulas.
don't people get more excited about expectations?
Of course.
And then when you get to reality, have you ever been there when you got really excited about something, and then when you had it, it was like, is that it?
Well, here's a challenge on the happiness, which is when your expectation is too high, even if you have reached a great point, your happiness is low because you're below your expectations. Where expectation is low, you're super happy, even you're the number 9 out of 10, right? So what I like to do always is to be on the same page with our customers on their expectations. I don't like to oversell. I don't like to overcommit things that we cannot go and deliver. And I try to get on the same page by having an honest conversation of saying, this is where you are. This is where you want to be. How long is it going to take you if you do X, Y, and Z? And the real challenge is the process itself. Because many times in that process, what you see is, companies make different decisions. They change the plan. We change people. And that's where things get broken. But at the end of the day, every single board is pushing very hard management, their CEO and the management team, to adopt AI, and specifically nowadays Gen AI, to reduce cost, to be more competitive, and to provide better service to the customers that they serve.
So I spent a lot of time in digital transformation over the last 10 years. And it was amazing to see how many of those efforts failed. Because many times they focused on technology and not the people. But I think now with AI, those companies must be looking back and said, what a missed opportunity, right? Because digital transformation is what would have prepared you for what's coming.
Look, I think there's different elements here. Let me park the people side, which I'm going to come back. This is what we see. Approximately 75% of the projects that fail around AI is based on data quality. You can have the best algorithms. You can go and have the best vision. But if the data is wrong, if the way you have stored your data, you don't have access to it, you don't have any outcome. The other 71%, 72% is based on the infrastructure that you're using. If you have the wrong infrastructure, even if you have the right data quality and you have the right algorithm, you're going to get the outcomes either. So the people are the ones that work on having the right data quality and making the right calls. And the people are the ones making the right decisions to use the right infrastructure. And of course, you need to go and build them. You and me have discussed before, Paris, and there's a big debate about, what is going to happen with jobs. There was a big discussion at the World Economic Forum this year, but it was as well 4 years ago. When everybody was talking about digital transformation, now everybody's talking about AI and Gen AI. And I have a clear point of view here. If you got to look backwards, in the last 3 industrial revolutions, there was exactly the same discussion. And he has proven after those 3 industrial revolutions that there were more jobs created than the ones that were eliminated. But there's no doubt there's going to be jobs eliminated. But there's no doubt either there are going to be new jobs created. And think about the example, when the cars came in. People was using horses, to kind of move, and the concern and the mindset of shifting from being, moving and having transportation through horses and with horses into moving into a car. People was concerned about all the jobs that were going to be eliminated back then. What happened was, it was a complete new industry that has generated millions, hundreds of millions of jobs across the globe. Well, what I encourage is actually, and that's why I'm happy to be in this event, is precisely we need to go and enable invest in readiness, training. So companies are investing on changing the people that we have, and certainly I'm a big believer in STEM. Science, technology, math, engineering, because that's the way we're going to go and train the new labor force for the future and for the present.
This is a little off script here, but it worked well yesterday because a lot of people found it interesting. When you interview someone for your company, what are the first 2 questions that you want to know?
How do you feel today?
How do you feel today?
I ask them. Say, tell me more about yourself. How do you feel today? Are you doing well? People get a little bit, you say, yeah, I'm doing good.
It depends, right on you.
People say, sometimes people say, yeah, I'm happy to be here. And then I normally ask them, why? Why do you want to join us? What I'm looking for people that come to my table normally is people that have gone through a lot of interviews before. We have their CVs, we have their background. What I'm more interested in is about, do they have a growth mindset? Are they humble enough to join a company where the culture of the company is a place where we feel proud to work with others versus feeling that we are great by ourselves? Goes back to the quality of data. I look for quality of people. The people that, gets into X, Y, or Z levels, the knowledge is there. The real challenge is, are they willing to go and learn? Will they be open to get feedback? Can they work as a team player or not? So I normally do a very, not personal, but an interview where I let them go and talk about themselves. I don't know if he's going to kill me, but I just hired the head of North America for us, he joined 3 months ago. The last interview that I did with him, I invited him to come to Madrid, and I took him to watch Real Madrid into the stadium. He came with a jacket, and then 20 minutes later, he took out the jacket, he was yelling, and, I say, this is the person that I want. So, yeah, I like to know the people.
Cesar, you're a great example of a Spaniard that has made it to the top in the technology world. What advice do you give? Because we have a lot of Spanish students and a lot of Spaniard professionals that, South Summit over the last 13 years has opened their minds to the international scope and, the opportunities out there. What advice do you give to a young Spaniard that, looks around and says, this is amazing, the opportunities out there, what should I do?
Well, first of all, I would never say I've made it to the top or anything like that. I think for me, as I said, life is all about happiness, and you need to define what happiness is. And for me, the thing that I feel the most proud is about my family. It happens that my family has supported me in my career, and we have lived all over the place. But here's the piece that I will share with all of you. First of all, be yourself. Be authentic. This is very important, what I just said. Many people try to be other person, come to work trying to be other person. That might work one day. It goes back to the interview process that I go on, try to have people being themselves. Be yourself. All of us think that we're much better than what we are. All of us. Or that, hey, we should be there and we're not there. Just challenge yourself, why not? Try to get feedback. And then be honest with yourself on how you can get there and what is the process. I think they're kicking me out, right? That's the way they kick you out here. They start with music. So be humble. Always keep learning. The moment that you think that you know it all is the moment that either you need to change or you need to challenge yourself. So with that, don't worry, I'm leaving. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.